Media manipulation. We are experiencing the massive acceleration of the information age, also known as the computer age and digital age, which is a period in human history characterized by the shift from traditional industrialization to an economy that is completely based on information computerization. During the information age, the phenomenon is that the digital industry creates a knowledge-based society surrounded by a high-tech global economy, which we can see is pushing for the agenda of eradicating paper money and coin transactions. In the consumer society, the information industry allows individuals to focus on their personalized needs, therefore simplifying the procedure for all kinds of social or consumer activities, like making online payments or mobile transactions. At the same time, making transactions has become more convenient when it's all digitized. The information is being gathered as an intelligence operation to use as a control mechanism against the population. The information age has been formed by the corporations and the main pillars of society capitalizing on the computer trends to manufacture ever smaller mechanical, optical and electronic products and devices. The evolution of technology as the current standard in our everyday life, and the increased access to social organization and forms of media, has led to the modernization of information and communication processes that is the driving force behind human social evolution, while shaping society's values and influencing public policies. This has both very positive and negative impacts, as this must happen to align with the creation of a free information global society, while at the same time those in control try to take over all forms of access to education, knowledge and information. We are in a battle over access to truthful and accurate information and knowledge, and it's critical we all understand what is at stake now. Therefore, the media, in all its many and growing forms throughout the digital age, occupies more and more of our lives, the lives of our children, and this will only continue to grow. Unfortunately, as we are being inundated with all forms of media, there are many unscrupulous tactics to use subtle and not so subtle ways to target people with sophisticated webs of deceptions and mind control. Therefore, we must educate ourselves to learn how the media is used as a directed psychological and emotional operation that is used against the public, in order to get the desired results as premeditated and orchestrated by those who are behind spoon-feeding and controlling how these messages are being presented. It is critical we learn how news outlets are actually sponsored commercials that are being used to promote a series of harmful agendas, and how these messages can entrain our brains to feel certain emotions toward products and even commercial or political candidates. To be better informed, we must stop knee-jerk reactions and losing impulse control from reacting to the media, as if we believe its content is truthful or accurate. It is not. We are being lied to, and we must grow up to recognize and realize that fact. The mainstream media has an important role in spinning disinformation and targeting humanity in a mass mind control operation. Mind control is used to form socially acceptable belief systems and shape anti-human value systems, which direct thoughts that are in contradiction to each other, like war and killing for peace. As long as the planet is at war with itself, and humanity thinks we are at war with each other, we feed into the mind control system of the N.A., or negative alien agenda, which allows them to continue the vampirism of planetary resources, and enforce the genocide of the people. As we recognize the impacts of the explosion of the digital age, we must also now recognize the need for an expanded definition of media literacy, one that includes comprehending what we see or read that comes through published print, movie or screen-based, and all forms of digital or electronic media. How do we better identify the mind control tactics and the motivation behind what we are really reading or seeing? How do we identify the many tactics of media manipulation and propaganda that is targeting the public, attempting to incite people into violence, and taking sides that promote aggression and division? The marketing of an harmful anti-human agenda is more forceful than it ever has been, because it's spread so easily through every form of media that is marketed for human consumption, along with the fact the power elite are desperate to maintain their control over the media spin. These days, it is very hard to get away from the continual broadcast of propaganda, deceptions or marketing schemes that are essentially omnipresent in our society. The job of mainstream media is not to inform, but to misinform the public, making it harder for people to make informed decisions about things that impact their own lives, and that of their families. Mass media is used to divert public attention from important issues and changes that are decided upon by the political and economic elites, through the technique of derailing important facts or information through the continuous flood of distractions, mindless entertainment and insignificant information. The controlled media and press have mandates to provide all news and related media content to be written or presented at no greater level than what a 12-year-old child, or less, could understand. If all we have access to in the mainstream news and entertainment is being produced at a child's level, what kind of impact does that have on significantly lowering literacy levels and human intelligence? How many times have you watched something in the media, and comment, "Did a 10-year-old boy write the script for this?" As we enter into 2017, a very important year of transformational global changes occurring along with significant consciousness shifts, thus, all forms of media are being used in a variety of targeted control strategies that are designed to manipulate the way information is being relayed to the public, therefore manipulating and gaining control over popular public perception. We must look to identify how the monikers, memes, ridicule, public shaming and labels that are coined by the media are used to throw people off from accessing the truth or facts in the matter, and further to incite anger, fear and division in the public. Each side is separated to appear as the opposition, as it divides and designs victimizer archetypes to polarize people in enemy patterning, while it refuses to allow an intelligent or productive dialogue or recognize support for diverse opinions. No one is listening for the larger perspective, only crucifying any position or person that they do not agree with, when they know little to none of the facts. The mainstream media is paid hefty sums to incite division, aggression, character assassination, attack free speech and generate obfuscation and chaos at every turn. What is media literacy? For centuries, literacy has referred to the ability to read and write. Today, we get most of our information through an interwoven system of media technologies. The ability to read and access many types of media has become an essential skill in the 21st century. Media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and generate media. Media literate youth and adults are better able to understand the complex messages that we receive from television, radio, internet, newspapers, magazines, books, billboards, video games, music, and all other forms of media. Media literacy is an effective way to apply critical thinking skills and apply reasoning and common sense skills to a wide range of social issues. To become more media literate, we have to be willing to drill the message down and seek its motivation, in order to comprehend what we are really looking at when we are reading or accessing different forms of media. We also have to be willing to see the incentives of who is benefiting from the media being presented, and not take media at face value and blindly accept what is being presented as factual information that is actually true. Discernment skills, as well as comprehending how the negative ego functions in people and in ourselves, are critical skills required in developing media literacy. In all controlled press and media, the undisciplined negative ego and unhealed pain body is used as a silent weapon to control the public. This is why gaining neutrality and developing inner emotional clarity is also important when being saturated in different forms of media that is being used to influence or control the public. When we access information reported or presented in the media, we should be considering the following questions to ask ourselves to gain a larger perspective. Media literacy skills can help us all. Develop critical thinking skills. Understand how media messages shape our culture and society. Identify the target within the marketing strategies. Recognize what the media maker wants us to believe or do. Name the techniques of persuasion that are used. Recognize bias, spin, misinformation, and lies. Discover the parts of the story that are not being told. Evaluate media messages based on our own experiences, skills, beliefs, and values. Create and distribute our own media messages. Advocate for media justice. Media literacy has a long history, and over the years a number of different terms have been used to capture the skills, competencies, knowledge and habits of mind that are required for full participation in media-saturated societies. It is about developing people's critical thinking and analysis skills when it comes to mass media, popular culture and digital media. Media education is the process and media literacy is the outcome. When people better understand how media and technology actually work, they are able to access, analyze, evaluate and discern the information being presented. It is clear that the psychological operations made against the public that is being carried out by the mainstream media is increasing heavily now. To better understand the most common forms of media manipulation, let us revisit Noam Chomsky's list, which describes this tactic so well. Noam Chomsky, one of the classic voices of intellectual dissent in the last decade, has compiled a list of the 10 most common and effective strategies resorted to by the hidden agendas to establish a manipulation of the population through the media. Historically, the media has proven highly efficient to mold public perception and popular opinion to that of the controllers. Thanks to the media propaganda, it has created or destroyed social movements, justified wars, tempered financial crisis, spurred on some other ideological currents, endorsed ethnic cleansing and genocide, and even given the phenomenon of media as producers of reality within the collective psyche. Chomsky has been given the task of synthesizing and exposing these practices, some more obvious and more sophisticated, but apparently all equally effective and, from a certain point of view, demeaning and dehumanizing. When we can see the social engineering of the global anti-human agenda, we can more easily see the dehumanization agenda that is embedded in the content broadcast of the mainstream media. It has been mandated by the N.A.A., or negative alien agenda, backed power elite to encourage stupidity, promote a sense of guilt and worthlessness, promote distraction, and construct artificial problems and then magically solve them, and these are just some of these manipulation tactics. By understanding these manipulation tactics, It will serve to help develop and improve one's discernment with media literacy and to perceive the blatant mind control perpetrated against the masses. The 10 strategies of media manipulation. 1. The strategy of distraction. The primary element of social control is the strategy of distraction, which is to divert public attention from important issues and changes determined by the political and economic elites, by the technique of flood or flooding continuous distractions and insignificant information. The distraction strategy is also essential to prevent the public interest in accessing the essential knowledge in the areas of science, economics, psychology, neurobiology and cybernetics. Maintaining public attention diverted away from the real social problems, captivated by matters of no real importance. Keep the publics busy, no time to think, back to farm and other animals. Quote from text Silent Weapons for Quiet War. 2. Create problems, then offer solutions. This method is also called problem reaction solution. They create a problem, a situation that is referred to cause some reaction in the public or audience, so that this problem is the principle of the steps that they want you to accept. For example, let the problem unfold and intensify urban violence, or arrange for bloody attacks in order that the public is made pliable to accept security laws and policies that are the detriment of personal freedoms. Or, to create an economic crisis and make that acceptable as a necessary evil, while limiting social and human rights, with the dismantling or public services. 3. The gradual strategy or desensitization. To desensitize major issues through cultivating public acceptance to an unacceptable degree, just apply the changes gradually, little by little, over many consecutive years. That is how the radically new socio-economic conditions, neoliberalism, were imposed during the 1980s and 1990s, the minimal state, privatization, instability, massive unemployment, low wages, and did not guarantee a decent income. So many of these changes would have brought about a revolution, if these changes had been applied all at once. Apply these changes gradually with distractions, in order to desensitize and acclimate people to easily accept these changes. 4. The strategy of deferring. Another way to accept an unpopular decision is to present it as painful and necessary, by gaining public acceptance, at the time it will be used for a future application. It is easier to accept that a future sacrifice is necessary than of an immediate slaughter. In the beginning of introducing the idea to the public, people accept it because the effort is not being used immediately. Then, because the public has the tendency to expect naively that everything will be better tomorrow and that the sacrifice required may be avoided in the future. This plays on people's hope and optimism, getting them to accept something unpleasant in the future. This gives the public more time to get used to the idea of painful changes and accept it with resignation, when the time comes. 5. Go to the public as a little child. Most of the advertising to the general public uses speech, argument, people and particularly children's intonation, often close to the emotional weakness, as if the viewer were a little child or a mentally deficient. The harder one tries to deceive the viewer, the more it tends to adopt a tone infantilizing. Why? If one goes to a person as if she had the age of 12 years or less, then, because of suggestion, she tends with a certain probability that a response or reaction also devoid of a critical sense as a person 12 years or younger. See Silent Weapons for Quiet War. 6. use the emotional reaction more than the reflection. Making use of the emotional aspect is a classic technique for causing a short circuit on rational analysis and critical thinking, and finally to short-circuit the common sense of the individual. Furthermore, the use of emotional register to open the door to the unconscious mind for implantation or grafting ideas, desires, fears and anxieties, addictions, or inducing certain behaviors. 7. Keep the public in ignorance and mediocrity. Making the public incapable of understanding the technologies and methods that are used to mind control and enslave. The quality of education given to the lower social classes must be the poor and mediocre as possible, so that the gap of ignorance it plans among the lower classes and upper classes is and remains impossible to attain for the lower classes, silent weapons for quiet war. 8. To encourage the public to be complacent with mediocrity. Promote the public to believe that it is fashionable to be stupid, vulgar and uneducated. A person can become famous by acting like an vulgar idiot or posting butt or nude shots. 9. Strengthen self-blame and depression. To let individuals blame others for their misfortune, because of the failure of their intelligence, their abilities, or their efforts. So, instead of rebelling against the economic system, or wanting access to education or knowledge, the individual automatically validates their guilt and unworthiness, which creates depression. Depression has the effect to which inhibits any kind of outward action, and generates apathy. When there is no action, and people are apathetic, there is no revolution. 10. Getting to know the individuals better than they know themselves. Over the past 50 years, advances of accelerated science and knowledge has generated a growing gap between public knowledge and those owned and operated by the dominant power elites. Thanks to biology, neurobiology and applied psychology, the system has enjoyed a sophisticated understanding of what motivates human beings, both physically and psychologically, perfecting mind control techniques. The system has gotten better acquainted with the common man more than he knows himself. This means that, in most cases, the system exerts greater control and greater power over individuals, because the system has much more knowledge to manipulate others. They know the individual more than the individuals know about themselves. Be aware that the world of television and digital media has become a tool of de-evolution, propaganda and social control. Nearly unlimited resources have been applied to understanding how to manipulate the human psyche through television and other forms of mass media. What we have today is an increasingly sophisticated full-spectrum assault on the free will and psychological well-being of all people, and we have come to a point where it is no longer even necessary for media institutions to attempt to hide their blatant work of manipulating public opinion, manufacturing consent, and creating winners and losers in the minds of the already mind-controlled public. Whether for marketing or for manufacturing consent, the media industry is guilty of using subtle and not so subtle tactics to influence our conscious and subconscious minds, to influence our opinions and behavior. There are countless examples of these practices, and discerning, awake people would be well served to be vigilant of this when consuming modern media in any form. As informed people, we must acknowledge that we are being lied to, and that the institutions we should be able to depend on for bringing us an objective view of worlds, are anything but objective. They are paid sponsors of the power elite agendas. Thus, pay attention, develop strong discernment, develop your BS meter, and do your own research to stay awake and aware in these times of great turbulence and powerful change. We need the brave, courageous, empathic, trustworthy people dedicated to truth and love for life, to rise to fill the void of getting the humanitarian messages back into circulation. Pay close attention and do not feed into the insanity of the psychological operations made against the people. Stay calm, neutral and carry on with speaking your truth, living from your heart, and never give up your purpose and mission. Peace to all. Lisa Renee. Sources: Noam Chomsky, 10 Strategies of Media Manipulation, Examples of Media Manipulation, Media Literacy Now.